Hello and welcome back. In this video on RPA testing with Studio, we'll use our pre-built project to create a copy of a source workflow for mock testing. Explore the mock testing actions and compare the execution runtime between a regular test case and a test case with mock activities. By the end of this video, we'll be able to create a mock file of our workflow by selecting Mock Workflow under Test in the Create Test Case window. Differentiate between test cases and test cases with mock activities. Use Surround with Mock to test specific functions. Remove the mock that surrounds our activity. Synchronize our mock files with the original workflow. Identify configuration settings for mock files. Edit mocked activities within mock files. Let's suppose we have an application that writes directly into a database, but we want to write on the screen instead. For this, we can use the Surround with Mock action to test a specific function without having to make any changes to the main test case. We should consider using mocks for tests that have permanent effects in production or require special resources. Let's go ahead and create a mock test case around Work Item 4 workflow file. To do this, we can simply right-click it and select Create Test Case. Next, we supply the name and location where to store the test case file. And make sure to check the Mock Workflow under Test option. We also have the option to select a template from the drop-down list. If we've created one beforehand, we are not using one for this demo. Once we click Create, a new project folder called Mocks gets created, and the new mock file is added there, while the regular test case file itself is added in the supplied location. Let's now look at the mocks folder in the project panel. We can see here the new mock file. The mocks folder mirrors the source workflow file tree structure. An important aspect to consider is that any changes made to the source workflow file are applied to the mock file when we save our project in Studio. We can also manually sync our mock files by right-clicking them and choosing Synchronize Mock. When the mock file is created, the mock configuration JSON file becomes available as well inside the folder. This file contains the configuration settings for all the mock files. We can see that we now have two workflows opened: WI4 Work Items Mock and TCWI4 Work Items Mock. Before discussing the TCWI4 Work Items Mock, let's explore the mock read-only file. We can actually mock any activity present inside this workflow. Let's see how we can create a mock workflow surrounding this Invoke Workflow file activity. To do this, we just right-click the activity and select Surround with Mock. We now notice that the activity was placed inside a read-only container that restricts us from further importing arguments or opening the workflow. And we now have access to a mock workflow that we can use to obtain a similar outcome as the Navigate to Work Items.xaml file provides. Great! Now, to remove the surrounding mock, we can just right-click the mock activity and select Remove Mock Activity. For this demo, we've already added some mock activities. Let's explore them. The Extract Work Items workflow extracts table data from the Acme System 1 web app and writes the output in a new data table. We have added a mock activity for this workflow and used the Work Items Excel file already available in the project folder. We are using this file to write the output in a data table format. Let's go ahead and open it. There are 5 columns here, namely Work Item ID, Description, Type, Status, and Date. The automation is filtering by Work Item 4 type and the Open status and starts processing. Moving on. We've also chosen to add a mock activity for the Download Monthly Report Work Item 4 workflow. As we can see, this activity is a read-only state, thus we cannot import arguments or open the workflow. This activity has been mocked by having the automation take the needed transaction details from a specified local folder. Let's go ahead and close this mock workflow file. To have a precise sense of the time saved in production by using mock testing, we are going to run the regular test case first and afterwards the one with the mock activities. We will compare the execution runtimes at the end. Let's first make sure we have a good understanding of the actions performed within the mock test case. This test case file has a similar structure as the basic and data-driven tests. It has three major sequences, namely given, when, and then. Please take note that for this type of structure, the surround with mock option is only available for activities within the when container. Let's now briefly discuss the actions performed in this particular workflow. Automation accesses the Acme web application, logs in, and navigates to work items. Instead of downloading them from the web page, it filters and retrieves work items of type WI4 with status open from the Excel file that we've earlier explored. It then navigates to Acme, extracts the vendor information, and downloads the monthly reports available for the specific tax ID. Afterwards, it generates a consolidated yearly report, uploads it to the web page, and stores the confirmation details. As a final step, it updates the work item with the confirmation details and sets the status to completed. For this specific test case, we're using a verified expression with operator activity to check if the work item transaction status was successfully set to completed, and then mark the test case as passed or failed. Perfect! Now let's go to the regular test case. The only difference between this test case and the mock one is that it doesn't have any mock activities. Let's now run it. It first logs in, then navigates to the work items page. Since this isn't the mock version of the test case, it extracts all the work items table data found on this web application. Next, it filters by work item 4 type of items with status open and begins to process them. It now generates and uploads the report to the web application. Next, it updates the work item with the confirmation details and sets the status to completed. And it's now finished. Let's check out the execution time. The verification passed and status was marked as completed, and the execution took 5 minutes and 41 seconds to complete a transaction. Great! Now let's run the test case that contains the mock activities. It accesses the Acme web app, logs in, goes to the work items, but it won't continue to extract any details from this table. It'll instead use the local Excel file and save the vendor information. Afterwards, it generates the yearly report for the specified vendor tax ID and uploads it on the Acme webpage. Next, captures the confirmation details, updates the work item with the details, and sets the status to completed. And the automation ran successfully. Let's check out the output panel and see the details. The verification passed, and the execution was significantly faster. It took only 2 minutes and 31 seconds to complete a transaction. This is around 3 times faster than the test case without the mock activities. Great! With this, we conclude our overview of using mock testing on activities in Studio. Here are some of the key takeaways. We should consider using mocks for tests that have permanent effects in production or require special resources. We can create a mock file of our workflow by selecting Mock Workflow under Test in the Create Test Case window. This creates a copy of our workflow with the name workflow name _ mock and stores it in Project Mocks. In a given, when, and then test case structure, the Surround with Mock option is only available for activities within the when sequence. Within mock files, we can only edit the mocked activities. Can you recall how we can manually synchronize mock files or folders with the source workflow file or respective folders? Thank you for watching, and until next time, happy automation!